damn it. Looks like we have some trouble, dwarves. Get those doors locked, eh? Now then. Well, hello, you bearded bastards, and welcome back once again to the newly completed Locum Cor Zugable Lokukun Obak Spearcavern, the grand granite shrine of pillars. And isn't it looking nice? Right at the moment, it is the 21st of Moonstone, early winter of 123, which means at the moment we've been here for 7 full years, which is pretty amazing. Just coming up on our 8th now, too. Isn't that just astounding? We've been chugging along on this project, and it's high time we've come to a finish with it, eh? We figured the dwarves were in a good mood. Let's get to work, huh? And so we certainly have. We have the central area of the central chamber here all smoothed out now. We have some nice engravings in place there. Nice little baseline for us to get started on. And then around the edges we have the dwarven bedrooms, and those are looking pretty darn nice as well. And there are 7 of them, 1 for each dwarf. Well, kind of. We'll get back to that in a second. Had trouble again. Just a moment. Gotta check in on old Gutter over here. Seems to be doing pretty well. We have him training on that ballista again. That ballista hull cannot fail, right? I think we've discovered why it didn't work on that horse demon thing. Because it was crawling on the ground, of course. The bolts went straight over its head. It wasn't some mystical demon power or anything like that. Just a simple mishap. And so yes, we have Gutter back over here training on that ballista, just in case we have some trouble coming in, which we might have shortly. Judging by those sounds coming from the caverns. But back to that in a second. Trying to give a rundown on Spearcavern. Yes, 7 compound chambers, I guess we'll call them for our dwarves, all around the edges there. And we don't have them smoothed up just yet. We have some plans for that we hope to enact before very long. Like this one over here, I bet you can't guess whose chamber this is. It's the crabs, if you couldn't tell, hence all the Drunians. But yes, all the rooms right now are completely identical, except for Tinny's, who has a little museum thing in there, but they're all identical. Microcline furniture, weapon racks, chairs, tables, chests, cabinets, and if we look upstairs, we see more furniture as well as a bed. That bed is taken from the Cobalt room, actually. We're not using those bedrooms anymore. And then, of course, we have that little escape tunnel out the back, which connects up to the other bedrooms. It's a mighty fine setup for any dwarf. We hope to customize these chambers further in the future, but for now, this is a good place to start. Okay, alright. Just a damn second, we hear you. Let's have a look down in the caverns, shall we? Where we can see the forgotten beast Tadazkurleb. A gigantic salamander with external ribs. It has large mandibles and it squirms and fidgets. Its eyes glow fuchsia. Beware, it's deadly blood. You know, we could have just led this thing into the fortress. Just, got our dwarves armored up, equipped with their spears, and fought the thing head on. Really, that should be the way we do it. But I really would like to see that ballista hallway work. And the thing's prepared. We got it prepared after that demon attack. It's just sitting there ready to be used. And so, we kind of figure, what the hell? Now's a perfect chance, right? Much like the dust of Vesifa, that watery forgotten beast we just took out. Blood can be equally dangerous. It can be equally dangerous. In most circumstances, it won't be that troublesome. But occasionally, it can be a fortress-ending disaster. Not something we'd want to deal with, really. So this is sort of a safety measure, too. We do like to be risky, but, come on. Don't you want to see this thing get skewered by a ballista arrow? The dwarves certainly do. Just gotta get some training in first for old Gutter here. He hasn't used this thing in a couple of years now, so his skills with it have become very rusty. Shouldn't take all that long though, I'm thinking. Actually, who would benefit greatly from a ballista right now? Is this creature that's down in the caves with the salamander as we speak. The poor bastard. The salamander's been particularly violent down here too. It's killed a number of troglodytes as well as those pond grabbers that were in the water down there. And this Gorlak's gonna be next on the list if she's not careful. Now, a Gorlak is a small, round humanoid found wandering the caves deep underground. Most of its body is taken up by a huge tusked mouth. And before I go giving the wrong impression of this Gorlak right here, they are quite intelligent. They are not animals in the least. In fact, they are some of the wisest and most good-natured people to be found in all of Aethera Etha. It just, they kind of originate down in the caverns and they don't have a society like dwarves or humans or elves or anything like that. So most of the time when they're encountered, they live a fairly meager existence, a dangerous existence down here in the caves. But they have been known to exit the caves and join society. Some dwarves like Gorlaks for their impressive tusks, their stimulating conversation, and their helpful guidance. And who wouldn't? Anyone should like them for those reasons. Well, we wish you the best, my friend. It is incredibly dangerous out here, though. Be safe. Uh-oh. Sounds like we got some trouble up top. Let's have a look. Wisp. She's running back into the fortress now, and she's gravely wounded. Gravely. At the moment, she's pretty pale looking, and she's lost a lot of blood. Something just happened to her, and we missed it entirely. Go get some help. Having a look back outside here in the swamp, we could see on the ground the site of the scuffle. Yeah, and there we could see pools of Wisp's blood just splattered all over the scene, as well as one of her gloves terribly tattered, and her steel ring made for her by the crab, and her right hand. Wisp lost her hand in this scuffle. It was torn away. And here we could see the cold-blooded assailant, an alligator. Though this one appears to be particularly agitated, snapping its teeth and swishing its tail about. A particularly aggressive specimen, not like those ones we've seen in the past. Well, we've ordered the dwarves to come out and deal with this thing. I'm sure it won't give him much trouble. Yeah, there we go. Queen Bee just took it out with a couple solid stabs. No problem whatsoever. Although it has caused quite a few problems already. Wisp right now is faint, which I believe is a bit better of a sign than pale. She's just spending some time recovering now as Gutter sees to her wounds, diagnosing her first. Gonna have to get her cleaned up with some dog soap and then get that wound stitched up. Oh, you poor dwarf. That goes to show you how dangerous this place could be. We're over here focusing on forgotten beasts underground, but then we have something like an alligator come in and bite the hand off of someone. That could have killed her too. She's lucky. I don't know if you saw it just there, but not too sure why, but we had Pop come over and clean and dress her wound just now. I really wish that was Gutter instead. Pop, we know you want to help. We get it, but this isn't the time, really. Plenty of other stuff to do. There we go. We have Gutter dressing her wound now. Her leg got pretty banged up too in that scuffle, but it looks like she's back up on her feet now. She left and is back to work, seemingly. Well, best of wishes to you, my friend. Just goes to show you how tough our Spearcavern dwarves are. She got her hand ripped off in the middle of the swamp and still survived. Ugh, man. You hate to see it. That's really going to affect her combat prowess in the future, I think. Not going to be able to wield a shield and a spear now. Going to have to be one or the other, and going to have to choose a spear. Maybe she'll do some more training with parrying. Offset it a bit, you know? Here's hoping. Hang in there, Wisp. We are all rooting for you. Okay then, now that we're all fired up, let's get back to it. Over here we can see Gutter, and he is definitely shaking off the rust at this point. These ballista arrows are firing straight as can be. And so that being the case, I suppose we're going to put this whole plan into action. Gutter, if you could be so kind, we could use your help down here at the southern end of the ballista hall. There we go, it's just getting into place. Wonderful. Gonna have to lock this door behind him, of course, but it shouldn't take too long. I really have a good feeling about this. I think it's gonna work this time. Good luck to you, Gutter. And now, this door that leads out to the tunnels. We're unlocking it. And now we just have to hope for the best. there we have it. Good job, all. That was a fantastic little battle there. Didn't want to interrupt as it was going on, but as you saw, we launched those 3 ballista bolts, and this salamander ended up getting hit. Pretty badly, too, as you saw. Painted our ballista hull red with its toxic blood. Had to act quickly after that, just to make sure we could put it down. So we opened up the way down to the caverns and allowed it entrance into our fortress, where the dwarves were able to finish it. Fairly efficiently, too. Going through the post-combat report, it doesn't look like that salamander was able to lay a single slimy finger on any of our dwarves. Beautiful work, hunters. We were all pretty eager to see how that whip of Boggy's was going to fare against this thing, but, well, he did get a couple good shots in, but he also bit the thing and was trying to shake it around. Probably not a great choice with its toxic blood. And with that being said, he was not the one to put it down, of course. But that honor goes to Queen Bee, who finished it off with a devastating spear shot. And she was full of hatred today, apparently. Seemed to be aiming for its neck specifically. I like it. Now, I would like to think that our dwarves are going to come up here and wash that deadly blood off of them. That would be the smart thing to do. But it does not appear to be the case. Worrying. Well, I suppose if the dwarves aren't worried about it, then maybe that whole deadly blood thing is just a superstition, eh? It's probably for the best, seeing as how we're getting that body nice and butchered up. We should be able to score quite a good bit of meat from that, I would think. Not to mention its hide and bones. Good stuff. You know, I'm gonna say that's our first actual Forgotten Beast kill so far. We killed that demon, and we also killed that watery thing, but, I mean, when you get down to it, Forgotten Beast is kind of it's a blanket term. Those elemental beasts, like the water one there, or, you know, there's fire ones, or ones made out of snow or steam, they're kinda wimpy. Not really much to write home about, and they're completely different than ones like this one here. Flesh and blood beasts. That's what we're after. I feel like we could really be proud of this one. And we certainly are. Now then, let's have a little rundown of our returns from butchering that beast. My, oh my. Okay, we got 2 eyes. 22 units of lung. 5 units of heart. 35 units of intestine, some nervous tissue, trash, 11 units of brain, 289 units of the thing's meat, 136 bones, and its skull, which we're going to have to do something with. Oh, and its skin, too. I believe it's getting taken care of as we speak. Ah, yes, it is. By Gutter. Excellent. 10 units of leather. Oh, that is so cool, isn't it? Honestly, not a very high-quality material. The coyote leather we've been using to make most of our clothing is much higher quality, but it is unique. We'll try to get something fairly interesting done with it. We actually have no need for clothing right now. We were able to make quite a bit of surplus recently, so we have our necessities covered at least. As such, let us commence with the frivolities. They're much more fun anyways. Now, first things first. Cutter's heading down right now to grab that thing's skull and is heading back up to our craft dwarf workshop because he's making a totem out of it. Just kind of a little decorative piece. It'll be nice. We're going to have him make a couple of totems, actually. We should really get around to displaying some more of our prized items here. Things of historical importance to Spearcavern, and it's best to get them displayed as they come in, too, just so we don't lose anything in the fray. Okay, so Gutter's working on that totem, then we're going to get Boggy over here to grab a hunk of that beast's skin, and he's going to make a fine cloak for Queen Bee. Shh, don't tell her. Going to be a bit of a present. She could wear it for nice occasions, you know. I think she'll get a kick out of it. And actually, something else cool we could do is I'm going to make a little stockpile over here, and we can specifically take that cloak. Okay, I guess I thought Tinny was going to take the cloak to that stockpile, but no, she just took it and is storing it in her quarters as we speak. That seems a little rude, not going to lie. Just taking it away, I guess. Alright, well, we'll have to make another one. And what I was going to say is when we do, maybe we can get it studded with some sort of gems, or maybe even sew some leather images onto it or something like that. It'll be a very nice embellishment for the first to kill an actual Forgotten Beast here in Spearcavern. Now, Boggy's the one making those cloaks. He's our fortress leather worker. But he's already assembled some very fine dishes using that thing's meat. We got a dish right here, actually, that the dwarves have been raving about in particular. Let's have a look, and maybe a taste. It's a stack of 351 finely prepared Forgotten Beast intestines roast. It's sort of a melange of minced offal just stuffed into the thing's intestines. You give it some light spice and you roast it up good. Oh, let me tell you. You could easily see why they'd be raving about it. The important thing here is that Boggy cooked it rather rarely, you know? It's red. Still got a bit of that blood there, still intact, and the dwarves claim that it, gives this nice tingling sensation when it goes down. That thing's toxins weren't that bad after all, it seems. Fine fare for a fortress of formidable dwarves, such as this one, if I do say so myself. Completely unrelated side note here. All of our sheep are vomiting. And I actually have no clue why. Why are they puking so much? What the hell? Yeah, I just happened to look up here and, well, I guess I thought they were like, they were getting rained on. Maybe they were covered with... They're dropping dead as we speak, actually. What the hell? Oh. I am noticing they are all covered with forgotten beast blood. From that beast that we just killed. The one with the deadly blood. Okay, so... Either the toxins in the blood just don't affect our dwarves, because sheep are a little bit smaller, or our dwarves are so well clothed and armored that they just didn't get any blood on them. I don't doubt that that happened. But what's going on here, I think, is our dwarves were up on the surface at some point when it started raining. And like we had seen recently, that blood will get washed off of their armor/clothing when it rains. So I think there was a pool of that beast's deadly blood up here on the surface, and these sheep have just been walking through it the whole time. Oh my goodness, that's an awful lot of vomit. I guess it's my thinking that we're going to have to keep an eye on our dwarves, but even if we did, I don't know how much it could help at this point. My god, our flock was just devastated in one single blow. I'm not sure if any of them will survive. We should probably get them off the surface, huh? Away from these pools of blood. For now, I guess we'll just put them up over here, a different pasture to the north. But we're going to have to start thinking about a situation underground for them. And actually, that plays into our current plans. Well, first off, how we feeling, dwarves? We doing good? Again, we're not going to be able to do very much if we notice one of them coming down with an illness or vomiting or anything like that. If they suffer that same fate that the sheep did, then they're just going to die. That's it. But I'm thinking we're in the clear. Goes to show you the importance of clothing and armor in combat. Offers a lot more than physical protection. It's a matter of life and death. But yes, those plans I was talking about. Well, we can see Tinny here actually working on them, carving out this weird network of tunnels. What's that all about, I wonder? Well, let's zoom out and get a better idea. As you can see, there's this network right here. 7 arms of this tunnel with a stairway that leads up and down. You can see some water just sprayed out there. It leads up to the aquifer and down to this level here, which is right above the fortress. You can see we have a couple of long chambers dug out. That's for future use. Not to be worried about at the moment. But yes, this tunnel here is going to serve as our water system. And indeed, if we move downwards, we can see the top of the Spearcavern dome. Continuing downwards, we can see our rooms. And then we can see Spearcavern, that central area, and a bunch of pits dug out, with little bridges leading to each of our rooms. Now, our plan is to have water come down from the aquifer above. Hopefully a good amount, too. And we want it to come down into these pits. We're going to have a big open area beneath our fortress, and we're going to fill it with water. We'll need it for wells and cleaning and stuff. It'll be useful to have it on hand, you know? It's something we need to do, so we figure we might as well make it flashy. Get some mist spraying out too, dwarves love that. But this project's going to come in a couple of phases. And before we start filling up the reservoir underneath with water, our first order of business is going to be filling up each of the dwarves' quarters, like the exterior of their quarters, with water. Briefly, we're going to get that ground nice and wet, for the express purpose of growing some moss and fungus trees out there. At first, we were just going to do that for the crab and his drunians, but the dwarves expressed an interest in each having their own little nature area outside, especially Pop. She's big into that sort of stuff. So we figured, what the hell, while we're at it, let's just do it for all of them. We were originally going to put workshops and stuff out in that big area, but we also figured there's nothing going on underneath their quarters, so we'll just put workshops and stuff underneath their houses. It'd be a perfect idea, really. It's all coming together. Oh, and right, this started off with talking about our sheep. And what I meant was, once we have that moss growing underground, nice and safe in Spearcavern, we can absolutely move the sheep down there. They can graze to their heart's content and not have to worry about all too much. It'll be a much better setup, but it's going to take some time, obviously. More trouble in the caves, it sounds like. Well, let's get down there and have a look. The forgotten beast Nerzungstasbub has come, a towering, feathered scorpion. It has 3 long spiral horns and it has a gaunt appearance. Its beige feathers are long and narrow. Beware its poisonous sting. Alright, it looks like we have another flesh and blood beast coming in, just what we like. And this time it doesn't have any deadly dust or toxic blood or anything like that, just its sting, which makes it a bit more manageable. It's moving straight in towards the fortress right now, and we have the dwarves assembling in the barracks as per usual, but they've all been working lately up in the fortress, so it's taking a bit for them to assemble. Hoping it doesn't take too long though. That thing is moving in quick. There we go. Good job, dwarves. Not sure you caught that, but when that beast came up, it was only one dwarf here in the barracks, and it was Boggy. Remember, he still doesn't have the greatest skill with that whip of his, but he seemed to do absolutely fine with it. He started swinging and cracking through that exoskeleton straight off the bat. The scorpion's ichor was spraying out all over the ground. He was also, I have to say, he's actually rather quick, very nimble, even with all that armor on. There's more to military training than weapon usage, I suppose. Makes sense. That scorpion didn't land a hit on any of our dwarves. Sometimes that's not the fear. The fear is that your dwarves will get too tired and not be able to fight back. One of the biggest fears during that combat, I'd say, but it wasn't a problem because Wisp came running down, and she really let that scorpion have it. Cracked right through that chitin with her spear. No shield, to remember. She can no longer use a shield, but she didn't need it seemingly. And, in fact, despite all the other dwarves coming to the rescue at the end, Wisp was the one who landed the killing blow against Nerzungstasbub. She stabbed it right in its cephalothorax with her steel spear, tearing the muscle and the brain. Brilliant work, Wisp. Who needs two hands anyways? You're still a cold-blooded killer. Actually, if you have a look right here, the dwarves are already in the process of butchering Nerzungstasbub. Eager to see what kind of meat we get from that. It's comparable. Not bad at all. Whole bunch of meat, brain, intestines, heart, eyes. The good stuff. Oh, and ooh, you smell that. Oh, that's good. What is that? Oh, yes, it's Boggy. Over in the kitchen. He's already hard at work cooking that thing down into some delicious meals. Oh, that's wonderful. We'll just give him a second to finish up here, then have a look. Who could resist? Gotta be curious. Ooh, there we go. It's a well-prepared hazelnuts roast. And it looks to be made from, well, hazelnuts, of course, but also almonds. Got kind of a mixture going on. And it's all held together by some tallow, rendered fat, from the Forgotten Beast and a dog. A strange combination, but, well, it smells good. Gotta love how it puffs up like that. Wow. Never would have expected it. Boggy. Bravo. Once again, we're proven right for putting our culinary hopes in your hands. I'm gonna divert here for a second, because I noticed something down here in the tunnel that leads out to the caves that thankfully the scorpion didn't notice. Looks like we have some more visitors out here. We haven't been checking these cages all too regularly, which is foolish, but, well, we're checking them now, so. If we have a look, we could see a couple of giant rats. We actually have 3 different giant rats in cages right now. 3 of them. That's impressive. The wildlife in the area must have tried to run through this tunnel to escape those forgotten beasts earlier. Just got caught in our cage traps, you know? Or maybe these big bastards were just trying to steal our food. Lured in by Boggy's delicious cooking. That does make sense. But in addition to those rats, we have a few other different types of creatures here we have not yet seen before. So let us take a moment to look them over. In this cage here, we have a giant earthworm. Very, very big. About as heavy as a grizzly bear, certainly as heavy as that giant rat there, which is saying something. I mean, it's an earthworm, it's just a fleshy thing without any teeth or claws or anything like that, but, you know, size can be a dangerous aspect on its own. Now, they're fairly rare, found in the upper caverns here, and have been known to attack dwarves too. Some dwarves like giant earthworms for their awesome presence, which, you know, it's understandable. The serpent of the caves. In a manner of speaking. I mean, it really is very similar to an earthworm. We're probably going to butcher this one. Gotta do what you gotta do. Additionally, over here in a cage, we have a giant cave swallow, a male. A gigantic underground bird that is both blue and orange in color. They are quite similar to just a typical old cave swallow, the little ones, except for the fact that they are much, much larger. About the same size as a giant earthworm or a giant rat. They're really quite large. Now, unlike that earthworm, these things can be trained, so we have in our hands the possibility of having a trained giant cave swallow flapping around. But I'm not too sure if that's something we want, frankly. We might keep it around for a little bit. If nothing else, I think the crab would like, having a chance to see what this creature's made out of, you know? I'll note, too, that giant cave swallows live a bit longer than giant rats. These guys live between 10 and 20 years old, so hopefully it doesn't go dying on us if we get attached. Next up, we actually have 2 of these in cages, both males, and they are elk birds. Described as being large creatures found grazing on mushrooms deep underground, they walk on 2 legs, have the head of a bird, and the antlers of a great elk. I mean, you know, they're big. They are big. Almost 2 times the size of a dwarf, but they're only really about half the size of a giant rat or a giant earthworm or a giant cave swallow, so Regardless, yes, they like to just run around in the caves underground. They are extremely common underground, much like a deer above ground in some regions. Generally non-hostile, they just kind of like tramp around all over the place, you know, minding their own business for the most part. They can be prolific egg layers, and I imagine they'd be a boon to have around, actually, if we were able to train a couple of them and start an egg program. Might be kind of nice, but I don't know if we're into that. Maybe. Those horns are pretty nice though, huh? My goodness. Some dwarves like elk birds for their elegant horns, and they certainly are elegant. Actually not horns like you'd see on a deer or a moose or something. Well, it's like part of the beak, you know, it's like a protrusion. It's made out of the same material. Used for display, I would imagine. It's quite interesting. I have to imagine we're gonna butcher these guys up too. It's for the best, don't get attached. And lastly, actually in a cage over here, I've noticed we have a Gorlak. Remember, we saw one earlier wandering around, and I believe this is that same exact one. That one that was running away from the salamander when it was trampling about down here. She's lucky to have lived. Maybe she was seeking sanctuary in our fortress here. Very interesting. Okay. You know, it's famously difficult for Gorlaks who live out in the tunnels underground to acclimate to a dwarven fortress, and we don't have a lot of experience with introducing our lifestyle to Gorlaks, but I don't know, maybe we could. We can give it a try at least, right? Couldn't hurt. Our fortress is a lot safer than living out in these tunnels. As such, we're gonna get you out of that cramped old cage and bring you through Spearcavern here. Yes, isn't that impressive? Got our big, wide, spacious chamber here. Don't mind the Drunians and dogs. I know they seem a bit feisty, but they're quite friendly once you get to know them. No worries. Just this way, we're going to bring you down to this chamber here, Tinny's quarters. I'm sure she'd like to talk to you before we allow you entrance into our home. Gotta see what you're made out of. There we go. You can just have a seat anywhere. Don't you worry about it. Just going back outside, I guess. No. Just this way. We're gonna lead her back inside. There you go. Just to have a seat anywhere. Going back outside again. One really wants to see the place from the outside first, I guess. Couldn't blame her. This is all new stuff to her. We're just gonna try to kind of keep her wrangled. She's all excited, looking around all over the place, I guess. All right. Yeah, we're just gonna keep showing her back to the quarters here, just till Tinny can have a word with her. Not that way. She's ooh. Hey, can someone get her? The dogs and Drunians are freaked out by her, I think. They're becoming a little too aggressive. Scratching and biting. Hey, someone grab her? Alright, just hang in there for a second. I believe somebody should be on their way. Okay, there we go. Yep, just this way here. There we go. Up through this tunnel here. We're gonna get her back out underground for her own safety. I think that's probably for the best. Obviously, she can't live here if the dogs and Drunians are gonna be freaked out and attacking her 24/7. Terribly sorry, Gorlak. Wish it could have worked out better, but oh, here we are. Yeah, we're just gonna show her back down this way here. There you go. You are free to go. And she turned right back around, up into a cage trap again. Listen, it's not safe for you in Spearcavern. Clearly. There we go. Okay, she is heading out now. Goodbye and good luck to you, my friend. We wish you the very best. And she's turning around again. Back into the fortress and into a cage trap. Okay, well clearly she doesn't want to leave, but she can't stay in the fortress either, or else she'll die. Well, we'll come up with a solution, I guess. Can't just leave her, right? Well, gonna be a problem for tomorrow, I think. Dwarves of Spearcavern, forgotten beasts have noticed we're here, and are starting to come in force now. Our glory is rising, our legend is building, and before we know it, they're going to be writing stories about us. No, not stories. Epic sagas of victory, blood, and death, and possibly Gorlaks. Really curious to see what happens to our new friend. But yes, that's a problem for tomorrow. Well, hello you bearded bastards, and welcome once again to the end of the episode where we're going to be talking about some behind the scenes things. Now, then, I am very happy to see creatures showing up in the fortress finally. I feel like it hasn't happened this entire damn time. Well, I should say, that clear devil's been down underground, hasn't it? So we haven't had our fortress gates open for the longest time. But yes, now that they are, we have forgotten beasts, we have all kinds of creatures scurrying in. It's been pretty great. Now, just because we left off on it, the whole Gorlak thing there. I don't often like to speculate about the future of Dwarf Fortress because really, you know, the things that they could add to the game are limitless. And if you speculate too hard and hope too much, you're just going to get your heart broken. But one thing I really would like added to the game at some point is the ability to take something like a Gorlak here and turn it into an ally. You know, maybe you can like interrogate someone, because like you can interrogate criminals already in the game. But like, what if you could, have a interrogation with a animal person that you catch out in the wild, right? And just like, offer them like an invitation to join your fortress or something like that. Give them a rundown of your ideals and maybe they can launch a petition to join afterwards or something. Stuff like that, I was thinking while making this episode that like the whole myth and magic thing for Dwarf Fortress, that's been talked about for so long and people are so amped up about it, and yeah, it's gonna be cool if and when it does come out. But man, I would just be happy with the game as it is, just like kind of expanded upon in a way. Like I feel like there's so many things that are, I was gonna say half done, but like quarter done in some aspects. Like the whole Gorlak thing, animal people, like everybody loves to have animal people or just like weird people in your fortress, like a Gorlak or something. How cool would it be to just be able to, find them out in the wild and be like, hey, want to live here? Or like there's that. And then another aspect of that is like, I'm sure a lot of people watching this right now think like, okay, because you're a civilization of dwarves, that means there's only dwarves in your civilization. Like that's not the case. And in some cases, these Dwarf Fortress worlds can get pretty screwed up. Like I remember this one time I was playing where like you can't see this very well now because like we don't have adventure mode yet, but I was playing adventure mode and like I had a dwarven fortress before and I was like, okay, it's just standard whatever the hell, and I wanted to go see what our mountain home looked like, so I took an adventurer over there and just took a peek around, and there were like no dwarves, or there were dwarves, but the fortress population was like split down the middle. It was dwarves and plump helmet men, which are like mushroom people without eyes, and they're also pretty small. But there were so many of them. It was astonishing. Like I had never seen that before. But I guess where this is leading is that I would love that if in a migrant wave in Dwarf Fortress, you could get like, say plump helmet men and dwarves or something, depending on what your civilization is made up of. Right now it's set so that only dwarves can show up at your fortress. You can't have the other weirdos show up at your fortress, just because I think the reasoning behind that was it's not easy to make clothing for different people right now as it is. I believe that was the reasoning, and I could see why. Like right now the game's not very intuitive when it comes to making clothing for different sized creatures. It's not that bad though. I don't know. I just think like a little setting somewhere in the game would be great, allow all migrants. Check that. If you want a dwarven fortress, you can have that, or if you want a weird dwarf fortress, then that option's open as well. That was always one of the coolest things about Dwarf Fortress to me, was that it's a weird world. It's not like a normal fantasy world. Like there's all kinds of strange people walking around out there. And you can still kind of have that too, but you gotta get lucky, like have a monster slayer show up of a strange species or something, But it can be pretty hit or miss too. One day. Alright, we're getting there with the time, but I want to touch on that toxic blood thing from this episode. That was terrifying when I saw those sheep vomiting up vomit all over the place, and then just coming to that slow realization that was the reason. I started seeing them falling dead, and I was like, oh, I see. I've had that happen a few times in previous fortresses where that deadly blood will get on dwarves, but like it won't get on them, it'll get on their clothing. It must be that if a dwarf is wearing any type of clothing on a part of their body, then that body part is 100% perfectly covered. But like, man, I figure if a dwarf doesn't have a sock or a shoe on or something, then they're gonna get that deadly blood on them, right? Like on their foot. So yeah, make sure your dwarves are wearing clothing, I guess, or else they'll end up dying a vomiting death. This has been a public service announcement. Also, when that Forgotten Beast showed up, I had to resist saying, "A salamander has entered the dungeon." And if you know what game that's from, you, my friend, score some bonus points. Anywho, my bearded bastards, I certainly hope you had an awful lot of fun today. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time here in Locum Cor Zugab Le Locokun O Bak, Spearcavern, the grand granite shrine of pillars. And until then, you bearded bastards.